coming up. I feel like I'm just turning into Anne Reardon at this point from How to Cook That. This is a first today because I have never actually reviewed a shark movie here on my channel before, but if I trust anyone to create a shark movie that is at least decent, it's gonna be Australia. But if you don't know anything about Bite /Bite 3D from 2012, let me quickly fill you in. Bait from 2012 is an Australian creature disaster horror. A freak tsunami traps shoppers in a coastal Australian supermarket inside the building. The shoppers have to deal with a deadly and unwanted visitor when they realise that there is a great white shark swimming around them. If you're new here, I'm Hannah, I go by Hordes Online, and I am the head of the Horde here on my channel, Hordes of Horror. And if you're not new, welcome back. I talk about horror movies here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, but as always, when it comes to watching movies that I have never seen before, I'm now going to go and watch Bait off camera, so that way if you too decide that you want to watch an Australian shark attack movie, nothing will be spoiled for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie that you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish, because then you're going to know exactly what happens. And I keep it spoiler free here on my channel, because nobody, and I mean nobody, likes spoilers. Jump, jump, jump! Well, this movie certainly brings a whole new meaning to the expression popping out for a quick bite to eat. I'll see myself out.
Get off the stage! You are the worst!
So let's start with the plot like we always do. The plot of Tsunami starts off 1 year prior to the events of the movie, where Australia is hit with its first tsunami. This brings all kind of disaster and kind of leaves a lot of the characters in this movie with like trauma and PTSD. As you can probably imagine, if your country was hit by an almighty tsunami that rivals the one that hit Japan back in like 2011, I think it was, you too would have some pretty big PTSD and trauma that you carried with you. This happens, and then we jump forward a year, like I mentioned, and you are inside a grocery store and you are following the people that are in the like car park underneath the grocery store and the people that work in the grocery store. Something is happening, which I won't spoil, and then a tsunami hits. And with this comes absolute wreckage and carnage, and that is two, not just one menace to society, two 12 feet great white sharks.
Oh, that's terrible. Thank you, my boy.
It then falls down to the employees and the shoppers and the people in the basement to figure out a way to get out of the building while these sharks are swimming around and trying to decide if they are like food or not. And I'm gonna pull up the science in this movie at one point because let's just say they try and claim that the sharks in this have decided that humans are much more appealing than like a big pile of meat, which isn't actually right. It's actually well documented that sharks don't actually like the way people taste. Like, they'll bite somebody out of curiosity, but they're not about to go feral on them the way that these sharks do. And what can I say? I'm a science-loving girly, which leads me on to the fact as well that in this movie they shoot a gun underwater, and anybody that knows anything about science and CSI, like if you've watched CSI, you'll know that you fire a gun into like it looks like a vat of jello. That actually slows the trajectory of a bullet so that you can actually check its ballistics. The same goes underwater. If you fire a gun underwater within 6 feet, the bullet actually will not do any sort of fatal damage whatsoever. There is a part in this where they fire a gun underwater and let's just say it causes chaos, which wouldn't actually happen. So the science behind the science in this movie isn't actually science. I feel like I'm just turning into Anne Reardon at this point from How to Cook That.
She thinks she's a scientist now.
There is a lot, and I mean a lot of characters in this that you are following. Think like season 1 and 2 of The Walking Dead amounts of characters. Like, there's absolutely no way, just off a single watch, that you are going to be able to remember who absolutely everybody is. Like, there is the manager of the grocery store, there's a father and daughter duo, there's a couple that are dating each other in the basement, there's a couple that are dating each other that works at the store and were customers, and there's even more people mixed in amongst this. Like, there are so many characters that no one is going to remember every single one's names. There's probably like easily 12, 14 different characters throughout, like, that all trapped at the same time. I'm not going to remember any of them. And in fact, I don't think that I can remember any of them. I've just called up the IMDb page on my laptop, and these are just the survivors' names that you are expected to remember. There is Josh, Tina, Jessup, Stephen, Ryan, Jamie, Todd, Naomi, Kyle, Collins, Heather, Rory, Kirby, and Doyle. Yeah, that's not happening in an hour-and-a-half movie. I'm not remembering everyone.
Who are these people?
I am, though, going to give a special shout-out to the practical effects and the special effects in this, because everything from the, like, floating corpses and the limbs and the injuries, all of that is great. I kind of love all of that. Like, give me bloated floating corpses in a disaster movie, and I'm a happy kind of lady. But I am going to take points off because this movie is a 3D movie. It feels like it was mandatory from like 2007 to 2012 that every single horror movie that came out had to be 3D in some kind of way. I know it wasn't, it just feels that way because the second it switched to 2013, 3D sort of started to trickle itself out. So I have to give a special props to the person that decided 3D is not it anymore and we're going in a different direction, because I am not a fan of 3D in horror, simply because on the DVD version of this that I watched, it's not actually 3D, so it's just really dodgy looking CGI.
Choices.
But there is very limited CGI in this movie besides all of the 3D stuff, because they purposely made the decision to go as practical as possible. There is even, and I love this, they had 3 animatronic sharks for this movie that were swimming around and terrorizing the actors, and I love that. Like, give me like full-on RoboShark any day over horrible CGI. I understand why they had to do CGI sometimes, because it was to keep things within the budget, but I love that most of the times when you see the sharks and they're not in 3D, it is a RoboShark. The pacing of this movie is also really good. Being an hour and 33 minutes long, it is very kind of snappy because you are following so many people. There is always something going on that the camera can then switch between. There's the things going on in the store, there's the things going on in the basement. At one point, they find out that the electric cables could possibly electrocute all of the water supply, and my boy Stephen, who is the best character in the entire movie, puts on like a makeshift shark suit out of like things that they can find around the grocery store tied together with cable ties to go and turn off the electric. Like, love Stephen, love his story in this. Like I said, he is my favourite. There's so much going on that it doesn't actually feel like it's an hour and a half long movie. Like, this movie absolutely flew past, and that is such a positive. Bait does a really good job of balancing being a disaster movie with a creature horror, and all I can say is it reminds me in a lot of ways of the movie Rogue, which is an Australian croc movie, and I love croc movies. Like, there are scenes in Rogue which seem to have been like directly copied in Bait, but it's not a bad thing. Like, if you watch this movie and you've seen Rogue, you will absolutely see the similarities between the two of them, and Rogue, arguably, is one of the strongest croc movies that has ever been made, and it also happens to be an Australian movie. In the end, I am actually going to give Bait from 2012 a 3.5 out of 5 stars because I had a good time with this one. It was incredibly quick to watch. There is a lot of action sequences going on in this that keep the movie going. It balances being a disaster movie with a creature feature really well. Like I said, can I tell you who any of the characters' names are? No, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't rooting for them to actually make it all the way through to the end. And Stephen will always be the best character in this movie, and I won't have anything bad said against my new favourite boy. If you just want a straight up shark horror movie, watch Bait, because this doesn't rely on any gimmicks like tornadoes or lava or aliens or sharks combined with octopus. Like, it's a straight up shark movie that doesn't need any like frills and fancy bits thrown onto it. So all I can say is, Australia, you did good on this one. But my opinion isn't the only one that matters, which begs the question, should you personally watch Bait from 2012? If you like your horror movies flavoured with realistically large sharks, isolated locations, lots of survivors, Pomeranian dogs, or anything that is listed here, then you will probably like Bait from 2012. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching Bait from 2012. If you have also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on it down in the comment section down below. And if you are interested in watching it, there'll be a link as always in the description bar to justwatch.com so you can find out where it is streaming in your country. If you would like to know where else you can find me, I'm also over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, where I post every single horror movie that I watch, not just the ones that I talk about here on YouTube. But speaking of YouTube, I'll be back on Friday with another solo movie review, and it's another 2025 release that I have heard no one talk about again. And this time, it is an anthology movie. We'll be watching Final Days, which is 5 shorts from 5 different directors on a tiny, tiny micro budget of $20,000 for the entire movie. And I am all for giving small movies a chance here on my channel. So, until next time, bye. A special thank you though to my regenerators here within the Horde for their support over on Patreon.